Welcome to the Women Arise podcast. I'm your host, Neely Hicks, and in today's episode, I interview Elvira Cruz, LSCW, who is a behavioral health counselor living in the Rio Grande region of Texas. Elvira shares her work with Triumph Over Trauma and the life-giving impact it's making. Hi, Elvira. I'm so glad that
Hi.
you're with me today.
Yes, so good to be with you.
So tell us a little bit about where you are and where you work.
Okay, so I work for Methodist Healthcare Ministries and I work in the Mission, McAllen, Texas area. I'm a behavioral health counselor. We provide counseling to the community for those that are uninsured.
Mhm. Such important work. And so describe a little bit about the landscape that you're in, like as far as what what demographics, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I live very close to the border. I'm in South Texas and I actually live on the border. So the population here is mostly Hispanic, and we encounter a lot of issues with some of the violence that's going on in Mexico. A lot of our clients are impacted by that. So we deal a lot with trauma regarding that. And of course there's like issues with domestic violence and but we deal a lot with trauma.
Yeah, what kind of issues do people face after arriving here? I know that for probably all of them, the journey itself is traumatic.
Yeah, I what I encounter the most is family that is already living here, and they may have a family member living in Mexico and the person is missing or they were killed, and so that those are kind of examples of the trauma that my clients are dealing with. I haven't directly worked with someone that came across as a refugee, or I hope
Okay.
that answers your question.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So we've been working together on Triumph Over Trauma. I met you last September. Can you tell us your thoughts about Triumph Over Trauma?
Yeah, so I was really excited about the training because it seemed like it was going to open up the possibility for us to reach a lot more people that are experiencing trauma. And and so I have been really excited about providing those groups. So I jumped right in and I started doing a group in November, and that was my first group. I did it in English, and I had about I started off with seven people participating, and they all had different issues, different types of traumas. But what was really good to see in the group was that the participants benefited a great deal because they felt like they were coming to a place where people had something in common with them. They didn't feel alone. And so that was one of the first things I noticed, was that they were saying like, wow, I had no idea other people were feeling like me. And yeah. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is, of course, the skills that we teach in that group. And the clients were really excited. The participants were really excited about doing that because they were able to learn techniques that helped them manage the anxiety that they were feeling, the fears that they were feeling, the sadness, all the emotions that come up with trauma. And so they expressed a great deal of gratitude for having a space where they can come and learn about techniques that they can practice, and in a place where they feel supported and they feel safe. And so I felt like the first group went really well.
I know that, I mean, none of us get out of this life unscathed. All of us face traumatic events and experiences. And some of them really linger on with the effects a lot longer than other experiences. What were some of the common issues or different issues that you saw raised in the group?
It was they all had different experiences. You know, it was childhood trauma. For most, it was childhood trauma, domestic violence, bullying. Those are like examples of the different types of trauma that the people had experienced in the group. And it, just interesting how years later it's still impacting them. And so to now come in and learn skills and techniques and to recognize that what was going on in their bodies was trauma, that was really helpful for them. So I'm just really grateful that we're able to provide this service to our
Yes.
clients.
Oh, I am too. And it just feels so good to have you like right here in this with me and with so many others who are doing this work. And you said something about people came into the group and then were surprised to learn that other people were feeling that way. I think one key component that often comes up as a result of trauma is shame, because people feel like if they could have controlled the situation better or if they had made different choices, that they wouldn't have experienced it. And then this internal blame game starts. And when that happens, it's really hard to talk about it with each other. So, what impact do you think that the group has on reducing shame?
Well, I just feel like the way that the group is structured is so, I think it's so compassionate. I think that's the word I would use. The very first day, the thing that we do is, we come up with the group rules, and the group rules are like, what do you need in this space to feel safe? And because we did that, and they had that list every time they came in, they could see the list, and they could see that this was a place where they could feel safe and supported. They were able to speak up and state like, wow, I can't talk about this to anybody, but I can come here and talk about it. So that was a way that I found that to be helpful. I really think it was a great idea to come up with the rules, but not call them group rules, but to say, what do you need in this space in order for you to feel safe? And that just really allowed everybody to say, hey, we agreed that this is what we needed and this is what we're going to do for each other. And then they did. And they bonded and they didn't want the group to end. It
Well,
was
I
good. It
know
was
it
good.
would be hard to leave something like that, and I know some
Yes.
people want to just keep meeting, and they're certainly allowed to keep doing that on their own, or one of them could even take training and become a facilitator and start another
Right.
group. So that's the beauty of this. The National
Yes.
Association of State Mental Health Program Directors is the creator of this content, and Harper Hill Global worked with them to develop the 7 session package that would be a little bit easier for small groups to get started in communities and in faith traditions. So their work has, I, that's why I felt so strong in working with them, is that it wasn't just something that was developed on the fly. There was so much thought and expertise that went into the development of this program, which has been in use for over 20 years. It's just that now it's coming on out into communities in new ways. So so you said the
Yeah.
first group. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No. And I can see how it was well thought out because, like I said, it was easy. It was easy to engage the participants. And I'm doing the second group in Spanish now, and I didn't. I have two participants, and again, they are just amazed at what they're learning. That was one of the other things, from the first group is like, I'm learning about myself. I'm learning like, these things that are going on with my body and my brain. I'm learning that there was something actually going on with me, and I'm learning how to manage it. And I see the same thing happening in this second group that I'm doing in Spanish now.
Good. I think, sometimes with the groups, we might think that, oh, you got to have like 12 people there for it to count. But I know I lead a group on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. every week. It's just a standing group. And find it so sacred when, like, if there's one person that shows up, that's one person who had a safe space to go to and learn and practice mindfulness skills and also reconnect with themselves. So sometimes those
Right.
small
Yes.
groups like that are really powerful.
Right. Right. And I really felt like my sense was this is the perfect people that need to be in this group. I am not going to judge, how many people show up or don't show up, and it has felt perfect. In fact, they want to learn that, so they're going to participate in the training.
Good, good.
Yes.
And are you leading that group alone, or do you have someone leading as a co-facilitator?
No, I'm leading it alone.
Okay. I know at one point we talked about you having a co-facilitator, so just wanted to check on that. And
Yes,
but
I've
this
had a couple of coworkers that have expressed interest in joining me, but our schedules have not worked out. But so I'm
since
doing it by myself.
okay, they're really lucky and blessed to have you, Elvita. You're a gift, and you have so much insight and passion for this. So they're blessed to have you. How is this different from the work that you typically were doing and are doing in your job?
Well, it's in a group setting, so it's different because I tend to do individual counseling, and so doing this in a group setting, which is good because then we're going to be able to reach more people and be able to to help more. So I'm looking forward to continuing to promote this group. I have some ideas on different organizations that I want to reach out to, and share this information and approach them about maybe doing the group there at their location. So that's basically what's different between what I do. The individual sessions. I mean, it's different when you're in an individual session versus a group. In a group, people can see that they have something in common, and so they feel like, oh, I, I have something in common with others. It's not just me, and they get to hear other people's success in managing what has been going on with them, and so that gives them hope. And so of course, in the individual sessions, I do that for my clients, but I think hearing it from peers is helpful. It's really helpful.
Mm, that's great. Yeah, with with a group, I think you have also the opportunity to do things so differently from like a counseling session when this is really focused so much on psychological education. Do you have you in the past had the time to do the psychological education as part of your counseling, or is this something new?
Yeah, no, I do a lot of psycho ed with my clients, because it's important for them to understand what anxiety is, how trauma works, how the fight flight response works. So I do a lot of psycho education. That's always part of the counseling with my clients.
Mhm. That's terrific. I think we don't know these things. We're not taught these things in school,
right?
and they would be so helpful. Like, I wish that I had been taught this stuff when I was in elementary school. I think it would have changed the outcome of my life in many ways. So, are there particular lessons in Triumph Over Trauma that people really gravitate to? Either lessons or mindfulness practices?
They loved the essential oils. They really loved that. Yes. The breathing, the breathing and the essential oils is something that are the two things that they seem to gravitate toward. They were they were like, it made such a big difference because then, they would go home and it was like, this happened to me and I remember to do the breathing, and I remember to practice the essential oil. And so those are the two main things that they seem to like really carry with them.
Oh, great. Yeah, essential oil is something that I like to use. I often have a diffuser in my home, but also even just taking a cotton ball and putting a couple of drops of
Yeah.
an essential oil, something that might wake you up in terms of if you feel like a trauma reminder or trigger is coming on and you have something that you can just smell that is refreshing, it awakens you to that present moment in a way that it might otherwise be difficult to come back into when you're going through
Mhm.
something like that. So,
Yeah.
as far as
Yeah, it
the
helps to calm the mind down pretty quickly. Smell
yeah,
calms the mind
yes,
down pretty quickly, so that's another benefit of it.
it does. It really does. Are there any of the particular lessons about how the body responds to trauma or can respond to trauma that seem to stand out above others?
Hmm, I can't really think of anything in particular. I just know that being able to explain the fight flight response to clients and the way that it is explained in Triumph Over Trauma, it's so easy for clients to understand. And so, but I can't think right now, I can't think of something that stood out. I just remember that they were like, wow, so that's what's happening to my body. And this, so that's that system that we have in our body that's doing that, right? So having a
Yeah.
better understanding of the brain was really helpful.
So for our listeners who might not know what we're really talking about, when when you're reminded of trauma, some people call them triggers. What happens is our body can respond through fight, like fighting with words, fighting physically with someone else. It can respond through flight, where you feel like you just can't breathe. You have to leave. You have to get out of that situation. Also, freeze, where you
Right.
feel like you just want to kind of blank out and act inside as if something's not really happening. And then fawn is the fourth one that is often not talked about. And that's something that I found really insightful in this curriculum because it talks about how, like, we might even say yes to something that we don't want to participate in just to appease the attacker or the person that is a threat to us. And it's just all of that is our body's way of surviving a harmful situation. Elvira, do you want to add anything more to that
No,
description?
no, you did great. That's how easy it is explained in the group, and it makes it easy for participants to understand and recognize what is going on with their bodies when they have a trigger. So thank you.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thanks. Well, so what is your hope for Triumph Over Trauma there in Harlingen and beyond? McAllen and beyond.
Right. This area is called the Rio Grande Valley. And so there's a bunch of little cities. So Harlingen is about 30 minutes away. I'm in the McAllen area today. My hope is to spread the word about this program. And I this time I have invited 3 people to the training. I don't know if they've registered. One already told me that she did register, so hopefully the other two will register soon. And so that's my goal is anytime that I do a group, I will try to encourage people to train themselves because I think it's really important for the community, not necessarily licensed professionals to be doing this, but this program actually opens the door for peer support and for these groups to be done by churches and doesn't require a degree, doesn't require a license. And so I'm really excited that we can grow that and make this service available to more people because there's a lot of people with trauma out there that need assistance. And by expanding, by making these groups more available, we're going to be able to reach more people and help them deal with their traumatic experiences.
Yes, yes, that's my hope too. And
Yeah.
it's one of these things that we can do to kind of stand in the gap. I think mental health care is just inaccessible to so many people. And in some places, especially rural places, people don't have any place to turn other than churches or other faith communities. And
Right.
so by equipping ourselves, we can stand in that gap and then help people who are counselors who may not have time to do the psychological education. We're working in tandem and really helping each other.
Exactly.
Elvita, is there anything else that you would like to add to this conversation?
I just feel that I'm excited about the outcome of the group so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to spread the word about this group. I tell any opportunity I get to tell people about it, I do, and so I'm just going to continue to do that. I feel very passionately about informing specifically my community. I want people in this community to know that this exists and that it's available to them, and that if anybody has a passion for helping others, they can learn to do it, and they don't have to have a degree, they don't have to have a license, they can do it themselves.
That's
So,
great. And that's the
mhm.
message. That's the message. And we do offer online training. The training that you were referring to happens April the 11th. And everything that we've talked about today can be found on TriumphOverTrauma.INFO. So, Elvita, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for training me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast episode. Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss a thing. All Triumph Over Trauma resources are available through TriumphOverTrauma.INFO. Subscribe to free daily messages of encouragement by texting the word HOPE to 615-933-5387 or sending HOPE, that message, that keyword, to Harper Hill Global on Facebook. Last but not least, you can support the ongoing work of Triumph Over Trauma by donating at harperhill.global/donate. Your gift makes a lasting difference.